So now that you've had your finished project, what we need to do is render everything and then export it to a QuickTime so that people can watch it. Now, first of all, what it means to render is if you've noticed a number of times throughout the project, we've had a number of different colored lines above our clips. These red ones will often show up whenever you're using a transition of any sort, so any sort of a transition at all. Also, if you have titles on there, and even certain file types that the program doesn't really like. So remember, right at the beginning, there were certain files we would use that would ask us, do you want to change the properties or do you want to use it anyway? If you use it anyway, it basically means, yeah, we'll play it, but it's not going to be at perfect quality, not until you render it. So rendering it basically is you telling the computer to take the time to figure out what is everything supposed to look like at the absolute top possible value. Because although this looks all right now, if we were to export this as is and you go to make a DVD of it or watch it on another computer, it might look really fuzzy and everything might just look out of focus. Sometimes you might get pixels, sometimes the sound might not be quite right. So you simply need to go through the process of rendering it. Every now and then, there are certain effects that you're going to use that a screen is going to pop up in the middle that'll say rendering, and that's going to do it automatically. But if it doesn't, you need to tell the computer to do it. To render, simply go up to the top bar where it says sequence. You can enter just the effects that you've worked on. You can render just the audio in some cases if you need to, or you can render the entire work area. I'm going to say render the entire work area, and now it's going to go through, it's actually going through one frame at a time, and it's going to figure out what it's supposed to look like. Luckily, this render was extremely quick. Sometimes these can take a very long time. I mean anywhere from an hour to 14 or 15 hours, depending on how complicated your video is. So if you have a lot of red and your video is very long, keep in mind that rendering is going to take a while. If you now have a green bar over everything, that means it's good. That means it's perfect and everything is going to look at its best possible quality. So the next thing that you need to do is to export it. The reason that we need to export our project is because if we don't, the only people who could watch your video are people who have this version of Premiere Pro on their computer, in which case they'd open the entire project and they'd see all your little edits. By exporting it, it's making it into a final QuickTime video that you can email to yourself, you can put on Facebook, you can put on YouTube, you can make into a DVD. There's lots of different things you can do with it. So a couple of different steps in making sure that you are ready to export. Number one, make sure that everything is rendered. Number two, watch it, of course, and make sure that it's what you want. Number three, make sure that you are at the very beginning of your timeline. See, I'm not. I am, as you can see from the time, 6 seconds away from the beginning of the timeline, which means if I were to export this right now, you'd have to watch 6 seconds of black before my video starts. So I'm just going to highlight everything. Once it's all highlighted, you can just move the entire project, the whole thing, right to the beginning so there's nothing extra. Another thing to check and make sure is just scroll through the back of your project. Make sure there's no stray clips down here that you were working on earlier and you forgot about, because sometimes that happens. So we just scroll back, everything looks good. Go up to File, down to Export, and we're going to export media. These are a bunch of different format types, but we want media. And this big menu is going to come up, and of course, again, you can scroll through it and kind of see what it is, make sure it's what you want it to be. And now we say, yes, we want it to be QuickTime. This one is going to export it in 1080i, so that's going to be high def. That's great. That's exactly what we want. One thing to be very careful of, to make sure you check, is output name, because it's going to name it what you named your sequence, which we did right at the very beginning. Now, if you named your sequence what the name of your movie is, you're fine. But if you named it something I did where it was just one, you're going to have some problems because you might not be able to find your project later. So just click on it, and now you're going to be able to change it. So I'm going to write Amber's Movie Project. Hit save there. So now it's going to export it, and it's going to call Amber's Movie Project. So we're all set right there. And now we go down to export. Now it's going to go through, and it's going to put all of the pieces together and make it into a project. Just like rendering, depending on how long the project is, this could go by very quickly, or this could take a while to do. So before we quit, we're actually just going to hide right now. Go to where your folder is, and there it is, Amber's Movie Project, right next to where my movie file is. You can open it up, and it's going to automatically open it in QuickTime. Here it is. Now you can watch it. And there's my movie. So we're just going to scrub through. And there's all the pieces of it. This obviously is not the greatest movie in the world. 33 seconds or 36 seconds of not too outstanding. But at least it gives you an idea of what you could be doing and how Premiere Pro works.